It's the Protagonist Show. I'm Dan Vaughn. Welcome. TPS coming to you, episode 10. What's a little time off between friends? Everyone needs a summer break, right? Josh,
Why
Duda, how
even
about you?
admit it? Why even admit it? It's like we've always been there. We're everybody's besties friends.
I have always said that the best friendships are those in which time doesn't matter.
You
You
don't even
you
notice.
reconnect back at it. Absolutely. Hope that you've been doing well this summer. How's life treating you?
Absolutely fine, brilliant. Lots of kids.
Lots
Some
of
of which
kids
I'm not even sure who they are. They're just in and out.
just wander in. Why not?
Ooh,
Why
who's
not?
her daddy?
Love that. Absolutely. I'm thankful for the two that I have. I want no more. I don't
Mm,
need any subtraction to that. No subtraction, no
no
addition.
subtraction, no addition.
I'm good. I'm good with the two. That is good enough
Sir.
for me.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's TPS, and that means that Josh and I look at the biggest stories in soccer from your local soccer league all the way up to the biggest stories in world soccer. And let's kick it off with the Gold Cup, which is currently going
Yes.
on in the United States. The Gold Cup, all sorts of action between our CONCACAF brethren. We've been playing them all, and it's been busy. From matches that look like we should have done better to wins for the U.S. in ways that we didn't expect. Diego Luna has shined. Malik Tillman has shined. Malik, let me correct that. He was Malik whenever he was in Europe. And then we got people reminded them that Americans pronounce that Malik. But anyway, all I'm saying is the U.S. men's national team has been disappointing at moments, but the reality is that this roster is not the best roster that we could field. Maybe it is the best roster we could field right now, but certainly there are gaps in the roster, players that we miss, the big names, whether it's the Pulisics, the McKinneys, the Weahs, the Dests, players that would all be starters and probably will be in a year at the World Cup, but have decided or were forced due to injury to sit out this competition, the Gold Cup. And regardless, we're still in the semifinals. We are now going to be playing against Guatemala, which hilariously eliminated Canada. You love to see it. I love to see it when Jesse Marsh is disappointed. After all the smack that Jesse Marsh talked, including heading into this competition saying that he had a loaded roster, that people didn't need to take time off from Canada, that they were here to support their country. What was the first thing he said after their loss? He immediately started talking about that his roster was half strength. And oh boy, we love to see it when Jesse Marsh is a sad boy. I certainly do. Jesse Marsh, he's no longer the golden child in the United States. Certainly not with that program. There's some bad blood there. And of course, let's not be surprised to say that Mexico has cruised through into the semifinals as well. So if things go chalk, which they could or could not, we will probably see Mexico facing the United States in the final if things go as they should. But Guatemala and Honduras are still in the way for both of the two biggest superpowers in the CONCACAF portion of the world and in this Gold Cup playoff. So there you go. What do you think? Have you watched any of this at all?
I caught some highlights. First off, I did think that goal by Alexis Vega versus Saudi Arabia was impressive, especially that homage to Luis Chavez, who's out, I believe, with an ACL injury. Chavez is a great. I mean, if you're an EAFC like video game nerd like I am, Chavez is always on that free list. As are all the Mexican national team players. They're free agents because none of the Mexican league teams are actually in the game, so they just put all the top players for freebie. I did have a question, Dan Vaughn, for those of us that may not be as up to speed on this tournament. Why is Saudi Arabia in the Gold Cup for North America and CONCACAF?
I wish I had known you were going to ask this question because I could have dug at it and given you an official answer. But my understanding is that at the big CONCACAF competitions, much like they do, I believe, in CONMEBOL, they oftentimes leave a spot or two in the competition that's open to invites from other federations. it's a little disappointing that it's Saudi Arabia. That shouldn't surprise anyone because soccer is dumb and corrupt. Um, I also know that Qatar has played in these competitions before. Saudi Arabia has. So that is what's going on there. And I'll tell you, Saudi Arabia played pretty well,
Yeah.
played the United States tough, came in second in the division or in the group. And honestly, against Mexico, held them for most of the game scoreless. It wasn't until I think it was towards the 70th minute that they gave up a goal, and then there was an own goal after that to finish the scoring line 2-0. But Saudi Arabia played well. Her Vernard is the coach of that team. Always looks very fly.
Handsome. What a handsome
He
man.
is a handsome man, and I'm not afraid to say that. Every time I
No,
see him on the sideline, I'm like, that's a good looking man.
nothing to lose. He's a good looking man. And take another button down there, Herb.
He has a very that clean white shirt he loves to sport.
Yeah, he does.
Always looks cool. Doesn't matter how hot it is. He always looks cool.
That's how you cool down. So there's at least 2 matches left. As you mentioned, we've got Guatemala. Three. Well, we've got Guatemala next in the semifinal.
Yeah.
And then there's Honduras versus Mexico. And I don't think that I'd be a bad person to root for Honduras.
I think why not? Why? I mean, we always have to root. Well, I always have to root against Mexico. I should say that quietly, as my wife's in the other room and probably would be less thrilled that I'm saying that. But I'll say this: that
for the sake of sports, just sports.
I'll be honest with you. I want the U.S. to go up against Mexico, even if it means we lose, which I think we will, because I think Mexico is playing better soccer than us and has more of a polished lineup with Raul Jimenez up front. I think that there's plenty of danger on that roster. I think it'd be good for our roster to go against them. And I also think, and this is maybe the hater in me, it'd be good for Christian Pulisic to see the U.S. play against Mexico, maybe lose a close one, and think, boy, I wish I had gone and played over there because I love punching Mexico in the mouth.
Yeah. I got one more question for you about this tournament. So I know that there were some questions. One, you've addressed this about the roster going into the tournament. Some people were questioning maybe Pochettino, who I think that there is some controversy about him apparently taking an interview for an open position in the Premier League, maybe Brentford.
He denied it outright.
He denied it. Okay. But with some question about maybe Pochettino's ability to pick a team or not knowing who his best formation is or whatever. Do you think, let's just say hypothetically, the U.S. does come out of this tournament winning the Gold Cup? Does that erase some of that doubt about Pochettino headed into the World Cup next summer?
I think you can't have it both ways. If this competition doesn't matter and the results don't matter, then you can't say at the end of it, well, Pochettino won this thing. It's super important that he wins. Like, I think that's kind of like, you can't play both sides of that. However, it doesn't stop people from playing both sides of it. I do think we should give him credit, honestly, for taking a substandard roster of mostly B and C players and going, and let's be 100% real, we've got gaps in this roster, particularly say in the goalkeeper position, where we're just not sure who we're going to do. And I'll tell you, Freeze looked amazing in the penalty kick shootout at the very end of the match. It was amazing what he was able to do. And I think that if those questions get answered and he's able to deliver with, again, a roster with question marks and certainly without his first team starters in most positions, I think you do have to give him some credit. I think it's a good move by him. I kind of wonder if we would say that he's done it in spite of some of his roster decisions, some of his lineup. I mean, the continuous starting of Arston, who I'm not a big fan of, that continues to boggle the mind. Tolkien has really strained to try to get into the lineup, or at least anyway, get on the field. And it feels like he deserves more opportunity. I guess I would say is I think there's plenty of questions to be asked of Pochettino. I don't think a win answers all the questions, but I think it does start a conversation about what he's doing and what he's able to do with a limited roster.
Sounds good to me. I hope that they pull it out.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I'll be rooting for that 100%. We'll see that as it comes. I was checking the times and the dates. Both these matches take place on Wednesday. If you're watching the show on Tuesday or Wednesday, could be tomorrow, could be tonight. It's just depending on when you're watching and listening to the show. But yeah, USA, Guatemala will kick off first, and then Mexico and Honduras. I wonder if they're at the same spot. I don't know. I don't see that listed. I hate it when they do that because the Mexican fans don't show up till afterwards. They buy all the tickets. Can I just say that every time I watch this competition, every time I am always so jealous. I have so much FOMO about the fan base of Mexico and the deep roots that their fans feel for that team.
Mm.
It's sad to watch because the US just continuously steps on their own private parts and cannot seem to get out of their own way when it comes to developing connections with a new fan base or even with an old fan base, people that feel jaded and shaded out. It just feels like there's so much work that could be done to create a similar kind of environment that Mexico gets to play in front of every single match in the United States. The fervor, and I have long ago given up the anger that an American of Mexican American descent would choose their ancestral home over their current home. I'm over that. I think that you get to root for whatever team you want, whatever team has built that connection with you, whatever national team it is. Good on you. And
maybe that's the reason why the United States, we're such a melting pot, if you will. We've got people of Welsh descent who are rooting for Wrexham, and they're rooting for their Welsh national team who aren't playing in the Euros. And they've got different tiers in Europe, but the women's Euros just kicked off this week as well, right? So you've got this American audience who's torn in their own ancestral directions, rooting for England or rooting for Germany or rooting for Norway to go watch Holland do amazing things, So I mean, that could get to the root of why Americans, to a larger extent, especially the soccer fan Americans, aren't as rooting for the U.S. national teams, just because they've got a lot of other interests nationally.
Maybe. I think the Federation has done a lot to not help, and the insane ticket prices, scheduling into stadiums that will never fill. The match that took place at Jerry's World in Dallas is just laughably empty. It's not a good look, and it doesn't bring fans. Fans are not sold on bad products. Speaking of bad products, how about the Club World Cup? Yeah, I'm talking to you, Josh Booter. Why don't you tell me about what's going on in this? Because I've boycotted this thing. I'm not watching it at all.
No. Look, there's a lot of reasons to boycott it. FIFA in general are behind this. They're also, CONCACAF has organized the Gold Cup. Ultimately, FIFA runs the world of soccer or football behind everything, right? There's a lot of reasons that you might not like this organized tournament. It may seem like a cash grab, playing to half-empty giant stadiums. Why are they here? And the answer is, look, there's always been a tournament that's a precursor to a World Cup. So the reason why this tournament is in the United States a year before the World Cup is it used to be the Confederation Cup, right? And there used to be a different iteration of a Club World Cup. It was much smaller, took place in January, and you had like maybe 8 teams. And even then, it was a bit of a pain in the ass for a lot of those European sides that just didn't see the point of playing. But you know who loved it? Were teams from Oceania and Asia and South America. They love the opportunity to play and ply their trade against some of the biggest teams in the world. We're all told every single year, Bayern Munich and Manchester United and Liverpool, these are the biggest teams, PSG. So why wouldn't teams from South America who play fantastic, beautiful football, why wouldn't they want to, play in a meaningful match against a team of that caliber? Well, this tournament offers that opportunity. I think on paper, Dan Vaughn, it's a great idea. Much like a lot of things that look like a great idea on paper, the execution has been subpar. I think part of that is just because it's the first time around like this. And also, I think that there's so much soccer all year round that even teams from Europe who are vociferous about fixture congestion, this is proof. This is evidence. There's just too much. There's too much soccer, and these players aren't getting a break, and they have every reason to not want to play in it. On the other hand, FIFA has thrown an absolute ton of money at this. They really want this to catch on. They want this to work. And I could see that if this tournament happens 2, 3, 4 more times, and they just kind of keep slogging through, and we get used to this format, it could catch on. I think part of the problem that the world also has with this tournament is just our politics in the United States right now. It's a really bad optic, and maybe people aren't tuning in. It's part of it's part of dealing with FIFA corruption, and maybe the issue, and then maybe the issue with our politics and some of the things we might have mentioned before.
Yeah, without a doubt, Josh. I mean, I think that I think my struggle is just sort of the complaints that you're hearing from the players, the coaches, people that know. Jurgen Klopp recently spoke about how this was an awful idea, that it wasn't good for players, and
he's one
burnout.
to speak, right? Because he works for one of the largest, most corrupt football organizations in Europe. So go on, Klopp. Keep talking.
I guess if you're saying that he's wrong because of who he works for, I guess I would argue that he's a man with a lot of experience coaching a top level team, and a team that almost certainly he would have had to lead over to the United States for this. Mm-hmm. I also am so tired of European clubs coming to the United States. I understand that it's great for the fans of those teams, getting a chance to see their teams play, but it feels like a money grab. It feels like they're milking us, and I don't want to be milked. Do I have nipples. Can you milk me?
I feel like the argument to that is these matches would have happened anyway, right? As you just alluded to, every summer we see these friendlies. We see Bayern come here, we see Dortmund come here, and then all these other, Bundesliga teams and Spanish La Liga teams, they come and they play against our favorite U.S. teams, and some of the teams in that other league that we don't cover. They have some friendlies too. These games would have happened anyway, and in this format, at least they're meaningful. And I think that maybe it replaces those cash grab tournaments in the future. We see it now because it's on our doorstep this year in the United States, but maybe in 4 years, wherever the next World Cup is going to be, which I'm not certain, this tournament will be in that location in the future. And maybe it won't feel like such a cash grab because it's not right here in our backyard.
Whatever Gianni Infantino wants, I want the opposite.
Fair.
Josh, what matches are left? What should people be looking forward to?
The round of 16 wraps up over the next couple of days. Real Madrid play Juventus and Dortmund play Monterrey. The quarterfinals picture is starting to get set with great matchups as well. Palmeiras versus Chelsea and Fluminense versus either Man City or Al Hilal. Those two teams are playing right now. And then PSG versus Bayern is set as well. The Brazilian teams have been an absolute joy to watch. If you could take anything away from this, Dan, it is if you want to watch at all, look for these Brazilian teams. Like I said, they get a lot of enjoyment out of playing against these European teams, and they like to test their mettle. I think that they're an absolute joy to watch. And I think some of these European defenses don't know what to do with an entire a squad of Brazilian playmakers.
I will not take that. Okay, cool. I
love you, man.
As quickly as we wish this tournament would be over already, the quickness of the amateur season in the United States for the vast majority of leagues, I know that there are some leagues that continue to play in the fall, have sort of winter seasons. The spring season for amateur soccer is rapidly winding down. Josh and I were looking at some of the leagues that are about to kick off playoffs, and it feels like the season just started. I mean, I get why it's that way, and maybe not everyone does. Josh, do you want to break down some of the reasons why the season is so short, so quick?
I think it's some of the same reasons, or some of the same difficulties we deal with when we talk about U.S. Open Cup scheduling, is that with the amateur league season, I would say 90% of the rosters, what you're dealing with are college NCAA players who are basically on loan to the lower leagues that we have in the United States. They have a late spring season, so they cannot join those amateur teams until about the end of May, or basically until the average time of commencement around the United States. Also, that's about the time when most of those schools allow those fields to be rented by the university system. So they won't even let amateur teams or anybody rent those fields to play soccer on until school is out. So that is one bookend. The other bookend is the beginning of August, and that is when those fall college programs in the NCAA are asking for players to return for training, for fitness, and for nutrition. Also, they start school. A lot of these colleges start in late August, and so these students, and remember, most of them are students. They got to get their books and they got to move into the dorms. They got to do all their student stuff. So I think one of the tricks as the United States becomes deeper and deeper in this player pool, and we start to develop players over time, is to start to recruit local talent out of the neighborhoods from kids who are really good at soccer but may not be college bound. And those, whereas I think everyone should have access to education, maybe some people choose not to pursue college first. They can go pursue sports. Those are the players that you want to target. Build that base of talent.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with you. I love teams that reflect their local community, if it be race or economic background, if it's that connection to the local neighborhood. I mean, that's the basis of American soccer all the way back. I mean, that's how clubs were formed, was based off where you lived, who you knew, and who your family was. And that's the way those clubs, if you look at all of those clubs that came out of immigrant communities, they held together and they were fueled by the neighborhoods that those communities lived in. I love that. I think that's great. I realize that there can be challenges, particularly if you're dealing with small communities, to find enough talent to be competitive. But I look at a team like MPLS City in Minneapolis.
Mhm.
They have focused on, they do not want to bring outside talent in. They want to serve their community. They want their team to reflect that community. And I think that that's a noble cause. And if you live in a soccer rich area, I think that you should be aiming to do that. There's no reason to drive down the street for something if you can find it right next door. And I'm a fan of that. And I think that you still have some of those problems, but certainly when it comes to scheduling, I think there's still going to be squeezes that come on. But I'd love to see that. Josh, you want to run through some of these leagues that are heading
Yeah.
into playoffs?
It's a list, so I'll try to go quickly. We got UPSL has some big playoff matches this weekend as round of 32 kicks off. The Seattle Eagles, I've never heard of them before, but they're new this year. They face Deportivo Rose City in the Pac Northwest. Little Rock Rangers 2 face Balboa FC, just to name a couple in the UPSL. The Eastern Divisions, I'll look to get started in another week. You want to take on the next one?
The WPSL has most of its season wrapped up. Like a lot of leagues, there's a lot of times they slow roll the starts, and so their endings oftentimes reflect that. But the playoffs will kick off this weekend. They also have a week 9 max schedule for next week, so I guess there's still some wrapping up. They might already have champions, so depending on how it works. Chattanooga FC will host Nashville Rhythm FC at Finley Stadium this week. Chattanooga with a lot of support there. The Blues, LA Crew versus Pensacola FC. That's a matchup that goes back to the Gulf Coast Premier League. Those two teams both came out of that. The number 1 nationally ranked Columbus Eagles, which are always a threat, the WPSL, are awaiting the regular season results from the remaining games to find out who they play in the playoffs. Couple more with playoffs kicking off very, very soon. USLW League has already finished up all of their league play. Those playoffs kick off this weekend. Word to the wise, listen to the W show.
I thought you might cover that this week. I thought you might.
John Howard Fusco and I will be breaking down those first round matchups. The NPSL, has just a week and a half left of their regular season. They'll be starting to roll into that. Look for a feature on a former NPSL champion and an NPSL, a competitor for that championship. Again, El Federalito working on that in the background. We'll see that on protagnistsoccer.com. Want to wrap up with a couple more leagues, Josh?
Yeah, I'm really hyped for that El Farolito, by the way. They're one of those teams I think that annually they do well because they do focus in on players from their community.
Yep.
And you can see them, they export some of those players and sometimes they bring them back home to play. So great team. And I'm looking forward to what you have for us in store for that. The League for Clubs looks like it also has a week and a half left in fixtures before the playoffs start. And UWS regular season runs until the 12th of July. The New England Mutiny are 6-0 on a perfect season trajectory with a couple of games to go. We'll see. And then Edgewater Castle are also 7-0. That is, Dan, that's another great organization up there in Chicago. They have one game left to complete their perfect season too. They are, I mean, what a great community cornerstone. They lift everybody up that's around them, and they really focus in on developing great players there. So look forward to seeing them in the playoffs.
Talk about a soccer-rich place, man. Chicago is just
we've touched the tip of the iceberg. We don't even know half of what's going on there.
Truth. Well, what are we watching coming up? How about I'll be watching, as you may have guessed, the Gold Cup semifinal, U.S. men's national team versus Guatemala, Wednesday, July 2nd. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I'll admit, I wish they were playing Canada. I think it'd be a better matchup. However, Guatemala proved they got the stuff. They beat Canada, and then they'll be going up against the U.S. men's national team with basically nothing to lose. Everyone expects the U.S. men's national team to win, and that means Guatemala can swing for the fences. Why not? I think this will be a great match. Looking for more Malik. Give me more Malik.
More Malik.
Always.
We've got Christos FC versus Annapolis Blues, so an old school lower league favorite versus sort of like one of the more popular teams for the last couple of years. It's a big matchup at the Retriever Soccer Park at University of Maryland. Virginia Beach have first place wrapped up in the Chesapeake Division in USL League 2, but Annapolis have 2 games in hand, first of which is that aforementioned matchup this Tuesday. But they also look to play at Lionsbridge, which is like, if you know USL League 2, Lionsbridge is a tough nut to crack. They play that game on Thursday. It's a huge week ahead for the Blue Crabs of Annapolis.
You know, speaking of the W League, John Howard Fusco and I interviewed the head coach of the Annapolis women's team, which is also undefeated and absolutely cruising. It is wild. We literally asked, like, what's in the water in Annapolis? I don't understand how you're able to generate this kind of talent. And the fans are responding. I mean, people show up for these matches. I know Annapolis set a record for an amateur soccer match, or I think it's an NPSL soccer match. I think it was top like 5 all-time amateur soccer match, but it's also the best turnout for an NPSL side. But before they exited for USL League 2, but good stuff. Josh, you ready for this?
I'll do my best. You know I struggle.
I want you to know that I believe in you, Josh.
Long-winded Josh has to be short-winded.
I believe in you. Go for it.
USL League 1 newcomers AC Boise released their official branding this week, and it's good. The league has seen a few good expansions brandings in the last few years, like the Portland Hearts of Pine, Texoma FC, and FC Naples. Westchester seems to lack anything unique. That's just my opinion. However, there seems something really great about USL League 1, League 2, great brandings. I look forward to seeing what Boise brings to the league.
Joshua Duder, I'm very proud of you.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's not to say that you couldn't do it. It's just I knew that you struggled with it. That's all. All right, my man. Well, here I go for my off topic. Let's do it. I think it's time for USL Championship clubs, and I can think of a couple, I'll give you a list at the end of this, to finally step up and start delivering with USL Super League clubs. It's time to recognize the women's game. The Super League needs to fill out this map, and there's championship sides all over the country with the support and funding to do this. I'm looking at you, Sacramento, Indy, Birmingham, Oakland, New Mexico United, Rhode Island. We should have Super League clubs there. It's the least you could do.
Dang, you called him out. You called him out.
I'm just saying, if you're drawing 6,000-7,000 fans to your stadium for your men's side, you could support a women's side. There's no doubt about it. And the Super League.
You think the Soul could make the jump up?
I think it would take some investment, but if you look at the attendance numbers, John Morrissey, by the way, USL Tactics, if you're not following him, you should be. Yeah. But the attendance numbers for Oakland, they've seen a big spike since going over to the what is that, Coliseum? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I'm excited. I hope the Soul can make the jump up. I think those cities are, good to be called out. There's a couple organizations there that would do really well with the women's teams. Dan, you're not wrong.
Listen, there are so much amazing amateur women playing in California. If you're telling me Sacramento couldn't put an absolute juggernaut together and give these women opportunities to earn a living playing the sport they love, I don't believe you. I think it can be done. And I wish it would get done soon. Joshua Duder, that's it for an episode of the Protagonist Show. How do you feel about it?
I'm really sorry that the sound quality from my little mic has been subpar today. I'm missing the important wire that gives me my good mic, but I hope to find it by next week. Other than that, I feel good.
Hey, you know what? You let me know if you can't find it. I'll Amazon that sucker right to you. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos will get my $6 or $7. After that wedding, he needs a little bit of money. Come on, we got to help him out.
Yes,
or let's not. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening / watching. If you're doing one, maybe try the other. Check us out on YouTube if you're listening to this on a Protagonist podcast feed. If you're watching us on YouTube, hey, Protagonist podcast feed on anywhere you get your podcasts. Excellent content from all over the soccer world. We love doing this, and it shows. We put out a lot of content. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support us at our Patreon, patreon.com/protagonist soccer, you can help us out. Your money has funded everything that we do, and we couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much. That's it for TPS. Have a good one. We're out.